Good afternoon all. Today again we come back to the obstetricals, that is abnormal labor. That means the disorders of labor. In disorders of labor, what all are the items that will come? How the disorders occur? Due to how? That is the abnormalities. The labor abnormalities, how it is occurs. That is the abnormal labor. So you can see the contents, what will be the definition, epidemiology, pathophysiology, prognosis, management and complication. So it's a normal labor. Normal labor, other name is eutosia. Other name of normal labor is eutosia. Eutosia spelling E-U-T-O-C-I-A. Eutosia. Eutosia. That the onset of painful regular uterine contractions that lead to effacement and dilatation of the cervix with the descent of the fetus in a vertex presentation. Okay. In this here eutosia, that is the normal labor, here will be, that is the normal condition, that is the onset of painful contraction, regular uterine contractions and lead to effacement, dilatation, that is cervix dilatation, effacement. If you have studied this labor, you will clearly understand what is this effacement, dilatation, these contractions, these all things you may understand after that. If not studied, after studying you may study this one also. Okay. Then coming to the abnormal labor. How the abnormal labor occurs, what all are the disorders occurs due to abnormal labor, some conditions. For example, ഇപ്പം നമ്മൾ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ മെഡിക്കൽ കണ്ടീഷനിൽ വെച്ച് പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ പറയും നമുക്ക് ഒരു നോർമലായിട്ട് പോകുന്നൊരു പേഴ്സൺ, നോർമലായിട്ട് കണ്ടീഷൻസ് എല്ലാം ഫോളോ ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നു, ഒരു കുഴപ്പമില്ല, എല്ലാം നോർമൽ. ആ നോർമലിൽ നിന്ന് വ്യതിയാനമായി വരുന്നത് ഡിസോർഡേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് വുമൻ ബോഡി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എന്താണ് ഡിസോർഡേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ഡയബറ്റീസ് മെലിറ്റസ് ജസ്റ്റേഷണൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതെങ്കിലും സിസ്റ്റം, ഓരോ സിസ്റ്റം വൈസ് ഇങ്ങനെയെല്ലാം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെയാണ് ഈ ലേബറിലും നോർമലിൽ നിന്നും വ്യതിചരിച്ച്, ദറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ എക്സ്ട്രീംലി അതർ, ദറ്റ് ഈസ് അതർ കണ്ടീഷൻ, ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് കോൾഡ് as abnormal labor. Failure to meet defined milestones and time limits of normal labor. Another name is dystocia. Another name of normal labor is eutosia. Another name is dystocia. You may get a question. Differentiate between eutosia and dystocia. There you can write this one. What is normal labor? ഇത് പറഞ്ഞു. Then abnormal labor ഈ കാര്യങ്ങൾ എഴുതിയാൽ. Okay. Then failure to meet defined milestones, time limits for normal labor. Another name is dystocia. Assessment of progress in labor. Progressive dilatation of the cervix 1 cm per hour in primigravida, 1.5 to 2 cm in multigravida. Progressive descent of head. Definition: no change or minimal change in cervical dilatation 2-hour period during the latent or the active phase of labor, or no change or minimal change in the descent of the presenting part 1 hour during the second stage of labor. Then disorders of labor, that is prolonged latent phase, primary dysfunctional labor, then secondary arrest. Types of labor abnormalities: slow progress, protraction of disorders refer to slower than normal labor progress. Arrest of progress, arrest disorders refer to complete or cessation of progress. Protraction and arrest disorders may occur in both first stage and second stage of labor. Participate labor, not participate, precipitate labor, complete delivery within less than or equal to 3 hours. Determinants of labor: power, passages, passenger. It is power, passages, passenger. Power means of how we are giving the power. If we are giving the power, that is then it will come, the baby comes out. The passage, that the way, passenger, വഴി വരുന്ന ആളുകൾ എങ്ങനെയാണെന്നുള്ളത് പറയുന്നതാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. പൊസിഷൻസ് ഓഫ് ഫൈൻഡിങ് സീരിയൽ vaginal examination of partograph. If you studied the labor, then only come to this one. You can understand this one. Okay, once more I will explain, that is after studying the labor. Abnormality of power, uterine contraction. Inefficient uterine actions is characterized by weak, infrequent, irregular contractions and is the most common cause of poor progress in labor. 3 to 4 contractions every 10 minutes, each one lasting for a minimum of 40 seconds. In second stage, uterine work is complemented by maternal expulsive efforts. Assessment of uterine contractions, that is the clinical examination, external uterine apography, the uterine topography, intrauterine pressure catheter. It is expressed by mammogram. Then 3 contractions in 10 units will produce approximately, that is, we can understand by this labor study. Clue of contractions, that is, can you figure out duration, intensity, frequency, that is the clue of contractions. Then common causes are in primary gravida, advanced maternal age, diabetic mother, multiple pregnancy. In classification, hypertonic uterine dysfunction, frequent intense and painful contractions having no effect on cervical dilatation and effacement. Subtypes are uterine tachystole, the increased frequency of uterine contractions, more than 5 every 10 minutes with little no relaxation, hyperstimulation, tachystole associated with FHR abnormalities. Then hypertonic, that is the decreased frequency and intensity of uterine contraction, primary due to intrinsic failure of uterine muscle, secondary to pharmacological interventions. Abnormality of passage, that is the passage relates to uterus, cervix and bony components of the pelvis. That is the passage, the baby comes out to the outer wall, അതാണ് passage എന്ന് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. Then causes malnourishment, previous fracture of metabolic bone disease, women with a paraplegia or spina bifida, space occupying viscera in the pelvis, impacted rectum, full bladder, cervical fibroid, ovarian cyst. Cervical dystocia, that is incomplement cervix which effaces but fails to dilate because of the severe scarring, which may be as result of previous cone biopsy, also because of malpresentation, പൊസിഷൻ. സെർവിക്കൽ ഡിസ്റ്റോഷ്യ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സെർവിക്സ് ഒരിക്കലും ഫേവറബിൾ ആയിരിക്കില്ല, കൊച്ചു കിടക്കുന്ന ഇതുമായിട്ട് ഫേവറബിൾ ആയിരിക്കില്ല. അപ്പോഴാണ് ഡിസ്റ്റോഷ്യ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അബ്നോർമൽ CPD, cephalopelvic disproportion. Then contracted pelvis, contracted inlet pelvis, outlet pelvic malformation. Mechanism, contracted fetus has difficulty in passing through the birth canal. Labor is protracted or arrested. Secondary uterine inertia occurs. Contracted inlet plane. Criteria, sacropubic diameter less than 18 cm. Clinical findings, fetal head palpable above the inlet plane, prolonged latent phase. Then contracted mid pelvis and outlet pelvic plane, that is the ischial spine diameter less than 10 cm. Ischial tubercle diameter, that is less than 8 cm. Clinical findings, disorders of active phase and second stage. Abnormalities of passenger, that is the first fetus, macrosomia, that is hydrocephaly, fetal ascites, fetal presentation, broad shoulder, then malposition, that is the occipital posterior, occipital transverse, attitude extension, acylism. Then fetal head diameter, parietal diameter. This diameters all you may study the fetal. This is the diameters you can see. That fetal skull you have studied, you can study this one. This figure also represents. Then interaction, abnormalities of fetus, birth canal, and abnormalities of liver, that is the passage, which all are the ways. There will be abnormalities occurs during the passage. Then prolonged latent phase, like a change of the minimal changes, cervical effacement and dilatation before beginning the active phase of labor. Cervical dilatation of 1 centimeter, effacement of 80%, mean duration latent phase. Nullipara 8 to 6 hours, 5 to 3 hours. Multipara when duration exceeds 20 hours in nullipara and 14 hours in multipara. Etiology, that is the primipara, unripe cervix, false labor, ineffective, inadequate uterine contractions, unorganized pelvic disproportion. Outcome, increased incidence of cesarean section, chorioamnitis, postpartum bleeding, thick meconium, 5-minute upcasco, admission to NICU. Primary dysfunctional labor, poor progress in active phase, that is 26% nullipara, 8% multipara, protracted dilatation. Then these are the hours, that centimeter. Etiology, CPD is early, occurs, abnormal uterine contraction, fetal malpositions, secondary arrest. These all are the conditions. Ulcerative, how we can assess an estimate of that the fetal size, the degree of engagement, position of the presenting part, signs of obstruction, presence of pelvic masses, descent of the presenting part with the contractions, contraction frequency, fetal well-being. Then variable deceleration rising baseline are common in restricted labor. If the fetal scalp sampling shows pH. Then secondary arrest is second stage of labor. The above, that all are same. Then arrest and failure descent, that is the fetus through the canal in the second stage of labor, and the documented by appropriately spaced vaginal examination. Prolonged second stage without epidural, with epidural. Etiology, 50% nearly. Inadequate uterine, fetal malpositions, macrosomia. Then diagnosis, vaginal examination, caput formation, excessive molding, assessment, gestation, abdominal examination. Management, assess feto-maternal well-being, Muller-Hills maneuver, IUPC, evaluate the uterine health, that is intrauterine pelvic capacity. Bedside ultrasound to diagnose malposition. Then malposition and support hydration, main level, reassurance, mobilization, one-to-one care, long period of time to allow labor of progress, check to cause. Okay, thank you.